let the dogs out. Like, who let the dogs out? Who?
Off the Hook, airing on offthehooksports.com. Your home for real news, real opinions, and what really matters about Tennessee athletics. Always available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play, TuneIn, iHeart. Like, share, follow, subscribe. Always available wherever you find your favorite podcasts.
Off and rolling. About T-minus, well, it depends when you're listening, 56 hours, a Thursday edition of Tennessee, Florida week. And I can't remember the hype being any greater. We talked about that yesterday, but I feel certain that the hype in my lifetime, the way I'm viewing it, what I'm seeing in ticket sales, it is the most hyped game in Tennessee football history since Peyton Manning's senior year, 1997. I know there are a couple of other games in there you could point to. Favorite and supposed to win, but I just don't. I don't think either compare. I think it's the most hyped game since 1997. She is Amanda LaFratta, fresh off of a birthday. Amanda, I hope you had a fantastic birthday. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Dave. I'm doing well. I had a great birthday. Husband took me out to Ruth Chris, so that was nice. Before you think we're fancy, we had a gift card. So
nothing wrong with. Who did you get a Ruth Chris gift card from? That's pretty cool. That must be a good person.
I don't know. I think it was. I don't know. He got it. I don't know where it came from, but he got it. So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with being fancy. They're not fancy at Honeybee Coffee. They bring you the Down and Dirty at 30. They're just really good coffee, Amanda LaFratta.
Amazing coffee. Wake up every morning, reach for my coffee. Well, actually, David reaches for it because he makes it. But then I reach for it after that. And it's just really, really, really good coffee. I can't express that enough.
Well, let's get to the Down and Dirty at 30. So Tennessee, again, is just a little over 2 days away from playing Florida. And wow, the game has so much hype leading up to it. We're going to get to that later in the program. But as far as the actual X's and O's and what is going on with Tennessee football, as we look at it from Tennessee's perspective, the Vols will host a bevy of official visitors. And we're going to give those all to you. But first, a couple of things that have come out over the past couple of days. Jawan Mitchell, he was discussed in a press conference setting. And I think that clearly linebackers coach Brian Jean-Marie likes him back. Jawan Mitchell missed the first couple of games, but he was back last week. He said, quote, for someone who hasn't played in a full calendar year in live action, I thought he did a really good job of getting lined up and getting the defensive line as far as the rest of the 11 guys. The communication part, which is what we're a little nervous about, we thought we did a great job. So that's good. Now, as far as the active roster front, started seeing scuttlebutt on Twitter last night, and that Cedric Tillman might not be available. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now that I don't think anybody knows for sure. I think this is a how do you feel on Saturday morning when you go out there and run around. But I do think that based off some conversations I've had, that if I had to lean towards pessimistic or optimistic that he'll play, I would lean towards pessimistic at this point, just slightly. Again, all of these injuries nowadays, especially with Josh Heupel, but everywhere at every program, are so completely covered up. It's speculation, but for those I'm talking about, two, Cedric Tillman may not play, and I would lean towards won't play. The other guys I think are fine. Dylan Sampson, Jabari Small at running back, no issues there. So Amanda, Tennessee misses Tillman, but if there's one position that they could have guys fill in, it's pretty easy. It would start with Jalen Hyatt, Brew McCoy, And I think Brew McCoy has incredible ability. This is an opportunity. Really, the stage is set. I mean, God has been very good to Brew McCoy, and he has responded in the right way. He has given him an opportunity to resurrect his career that was derailed by the transfer to Texas, back to Southern California, and then he sues the university. I mean, just all kinds of things went wrong. But now the stage is set for him to have a big game against Florida. So he should be very pleased. He should be very thankful that he has this type of opportunity. It wasn't that long ago where you'd have to sit out a year and maybe you get depressed. I saw that happen several times with the good players, and your career is essentially over. But Brew McCoy has a chance to star on Saturday. And if that's the case, then good for him because he's earned it.
And he definitely has. And I know Brew McCoy, he really made himself a household name in the SEC this past season just because of what was going on with USC or in the offseason. What was going on with USC and the back and forth between, are they doing it on purpose? And I think most of us agree that, yes, they were doing it on purpose, considering the time that it took for him to be eligible and the fact that he was eligible like the Friday before game week. So with that being said, he's done really well at being able to come in and have that pressure on him and still do well, still perform. I think Jalen Hyatt, however, doesn't get enough credit and doesn't get enough hype because he came out of nowhere. Like, I feel like we weren't talking about him at all. We were talking about Squirrel White. We were talking about Cedric Tillman, Brew McCoy. Hyatt got left out for some reason, and he has come in strong. I think he is one of the best receivers on this team. Honestly, if not the best. And sorry, Cedric Tillman, I think you're great. But the way Hyatt's been playing, I think is phenomenal. He doesn't get enough hype for that.
I love what he does in the slot. I also love when he talks to the media and he's so open about the fact that it was his fault he didn't have a good year last year. He got frustrated by the fact that there was Velas ahead of him and he didn't get a lot of playing time, but he set himself up for very little playing time because of the poor offseason. So we hear about in spring practice, as we do about a lot of guys, that hey, he's turned it around. He has a better attitude. Well, no coach comes out and says that guy's got a terrible attitude. He needs to get out of here. So you kind of wonder if that's actually the case. I think he's proven that it's the case, Amanda. And I know that his dad retweeted a story that we did on him. And I just think that it's a great story in and of itself, what's happened this season. Because it feels like whenever Jalen Hyatt talks, I feel like the therapist, and he's talking to me about what went wrong last year and how he changed his life and things are going better as far as attention to detail. So he's a really hard guy not to root for. Really hard guy not to root for.
I mean, he really is. And there are not many stories where these kids, these athletes are really, turn it around. There are not that many stories out there. Most of the time you get divas that come in, they're divas, they stay divas, go to the NFL, stay divas, and it just does not work out for them. We're looking at OBJ, we're looking at the guy that just left Cleveland, the quarterback. Lord have mercy.
Baker Mayfield?
That's it. Thank you. I'm glad I couldn't remember his name because it's just diva. It's great to see a kid get humbled and actually come back and play and be the receiver that he's supposed to be.
I think it's Joe Rogan who's I'm not crazy about his podcast. It's fine. There are moments I like. I think it was on a recent podcast. He said, I like the great story of being successful, but I like the story of somebody who wrecked everything and then resurrected what they were doing. And he didn't wreck everything. He would have he could have been an average off-season player and still been a factor, but now he's borderlining on superstar. So that's pretty impressive. A couple of other things that were mentioned at the press setting. throughout the week, and that is consistency. Multiple times this week, Josh Heupel has referred to last year's matchup with the Florida Gators as a turning point for Tennessee. Caleb Calhoun had this covered on offthehooksports.com, and he said that one of the big factors is that UT is in its fourth game under Heupel and his new staff, and they've learned different schemes on both sides of the ball. Florida was in their fourth year last year as well. Florida was in their fourth year with Dan Mullen and his system. So you had a crew that knew how to work together in Florida last year, and you didn't have a crew that knew how to work together at Tennessee because they were new. So now you have a situation. This year marks the first time since 2015 that the Vols didn't lose more than one staff member. It's the first time since 2014 that at least two on-field roles didn't have turnover. The only change was Cody Burns, who was hired as receivers coach for the New Orleans Saints. Kelsey Pope was promoted from off-field role to replace him as UT's receivers coach, and that seems to be going swimmingly. Ultimately, Pope's value to this program will be determined by how he can recruit, because it's Josh Heupel's offense that gets receivers open. He could have a ton of success. The receivers could have a ton of success, but you better be able to recruit. And I think that Kelsey Pope will be able to do that. But no turnover. And I go back to when I was a day-to-day beat reporter, and there was very, very little turnover. And there was, for the older ones out there, there was always talk of get rid of Pat Washington, who was the receivers coach, or Larry Slade, who was the defensive backs coach. And Philip Fulmer probably was loyal to a fault. But this staff seems to be put together. I don't see a weak link in it, and they're not wanting to go anywhere else. Now, I get going to the NFL, okay, because for those that don't know, there's a pension involved. If you're there for 5 years, you're going to get some cash coming in your later years. So I get all of that going to the NFL. It's not the job I would want. I would rather mold young men instead of work with divas. But if you lose one guy to the NFL and that's all you lose in this day and age in college football, that's really, really good stability.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, especially if you're just losing it to the NFL, I mean, everybody's going to end up in the NFL for the most part. If you're an assistant coach, if you're a coordinator, if you're anything, you're going to end up in the NFL. I mean, that's kind of the dream. It's building it up. But to have all of these people returning, that tells you that Josh Heupel is that coach. He is the coach that these, not only just the players want to play for, he's the coach that other coaches want to coach with. They're learning, they're making themselves better. They're making their career better. And so if that tells you anything at all, and not that I'm knocking coaches that, head on out, or coaches that have coaches that head on out, because we know Nick Saban loses like not even just players. He loses like his entire coaching staff every year because they just get picked through like a bargain bin at, Victoria's Secret. But these coaches are staying with Heupel.
Is Victoria's Secret still a thing? Do they still have stores, or does everybody just shop online?
I think everybody's just sick of I think everybody's just sick of politics in general, and when you drag it into it, it doesn't work out well for you. So Victoria's Secret is no different in that regard.
Yeah, I can remember going to Victoria's Secret, getting something for the missus, and always felt for Christmas just a little bit creepy. And you're in there and you're like a dude, and you're like, I promise this is for my wife. I swear this is for my wife. And people are thinking, it better be, you weirdo. But I don't even, everything's ordered online now. I mean, in all sincerity, are there even Victoria's Secrets in the mall? I mean, is there even a mall nowadays? I went into a Best Buy yesterday, and that was for the first time in a long time that I'd actually bought something in person, face to face. So
did they have the iPhone Pro 14 Max? Just wondering. Did you notice?
I didn't notice, and I don't even know what that is. Is that
The new
special?
iPhone. Yeah.
Okay.
I want it. So
What does it do different?
the camera is 48 megapixels on the phone.
What
The
is
48 megapixel camera.
what is your megapixel right now?
Like 2.
Hit that like and subscribe button. Let's get to
Something.
Tennessee's official visitors that will be on hand. And we've got today's tough question coming up as well. But we want you to be sure and hit that like and subscribe button. Share, please, so we can be a part of your day. So this is just a partial list because they continue to come in. And the invites go out on Monday. And then they start to trickle in as far as confirmation via either social media or contacting UT that they're going to be there on Saturday. So quarterback, you might know this guy, Nico Iamaleava. He will be in town. So that's obviously a big deal as he's going to recruit for the Vols. Linebacker Caleb Herring will be in town as well. I think that Herring, he's a linebacker. His brother already plays at Tennessee. I think that you will see Herring playing for Tennessee eventually. Christian Conyers, the cornerback, committed the Vols in July. He'll be in Knoxville as well. Trevor Duncan, a Tennessee defensive end / offensive tackle prospect who I'm told will play defensive tackle, will be at the Florida game on Saturday night as well. Boo Carter, who is just an electric athlete, a 4-star cornerback in the 2024 class, will be in town. Caleb Beasley will be in town as well, a cornerback from Lipscomb Academy. So a lot of guys in town that you will certainly want to keep an eye on. So we've got today's tough question coming up here momentarily. But first, we visit with John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. John's appearance is brought to you by Big Orange Phillies, and it's also brought to you by Viles Automotive Group. So here is John Adams, and we break down Tennessee, Florida, and really, is there any way that Florida can win with a question mark at quarterback? So here's John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. I started the week and I thought to myself, John, surely they just held him out of South Florida thinking it would be an easy win. You know, he's going to be fine. And now I'm hearing that he's not going to play. This sets up as, you know, if he's the guy calling the defensive plays. I know you have somebody else do that in preseason and somebody's got to be ready to do that, but still somebody does it first because they're best at it. That to me is a big time issue. Maybe as much, if he doesn't play, maybe as much as Anthony Richardson being scared and hurt.
Yeah. Ventrell Miller was hurt last year, and he's been around this program for a while. He's a really great tackle. He really mans the middle of the field effectively, and that is a big loss. And when you think about how Tennessee plays, spreading the field from one sideline to the other, and then creating openings in the middle, and that's when they run the ball. And you've seen guys break plays for them. And Ventrell Miller is the he can stop that kind of run. That's what Florida relies on him so heavily. So that combine that with the play calling and the fact that I don't know who I don't even know who the replacement is for him. He's not a household name. I'll put it that way. You know what
he is in Cincinnati. It's John Kitna's son.
No, I'm talking about for Ventrell Miller.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But, I mean, we could move Kitna to linebacker. In fact, I might like Florida's chances better Saturday if they put Anthony Richardson at middle linebacker, the Mike linebacker. He's big, strong, and fast. What more do you need? And he's not afraid to tackle somebody after they've intercepted one of his passes.
But does he know gap integrity?
No, but
who does?
Yeah, gap integrity. I think when the bullets start flying, gap integrity takes a real big hit.
It might. Now, I know that Billy Napier wants to come out, and you talk about the structure of what he wants to do. he wants to run the football. He wants to set up the pass with the run, play action, waggles, bootlegs, all of that. And the question is, can they run the football and shorten the game? I think ultimately that determines. I've got Tennessee winning, but if they can shorten the game, if they can have some success, 150 or so yards running the football, then I think that it's a closer game. I think that spread comes into question. And I just don't know if they can yet, because I don't think with Ball State and Akron there was any test of running the ball, and really Pitt was okay running the ball. I'm not sure what Tennessee is up front defensively, in particular in the interior.
Yeah, and I will say, Dave, I'm not just going to rip on Florida. Florida's offensive line, I think, has improved. That was a real issue for Billy Napier when he first came in there and he's establishing his program. He wanted to make it very clear that Florida wants to be a physical team, an aggressive team, offense and defense. And that showed up in its line play. I think its offensive line and run blocking is better. And usually it takes a while for run blocking to come along. But I think right out of the gate, Florida's running game is pretty good. Now, if you can get Anthony Richardson involved in that, I think Florida needs to design running plays for him. Of course, if he's hurt and totally devoid of confidence, he may get the ball and say, "Oh, I can't run. I'm not any good," and just fall down. Okay, but otherwise, I think Florida needs to run him some and run those running backs. The Louisiana transfer, Montrell Johnson, I think is his name. He's a pretty good runner. Trevor Etienne, freshman, shows tremendous potential. So that to me is what Florida has to do. And we just don't know how well Tennessee's defensive front will hold up against that.
True. I do like the big playability, which goes back to that. The big playability of Tennessee's defensive front might not be on display this week as they try to contain more than sack Anthony Richardson. I think that's how you're going to see things play out. So you might not have the big plays, I should say, you saw against Pitt. But I also think that we've overlooked that win a little bit. I was talking to Cooper Mays, who's on Off the Hook Sports, and he said, that meant a lot because that's the type of game that Tennessee, and he's talking about even before he played for him, was a fan because his dad played there and all of that, and he grew up in Knoxville. He said that's the kind of game that Tennessee wins, or Tennessee loses, excuse me. But they did win, and you look at that, and I think there's an awful lot of confidence maybe that we haven't spoken about as much that you derive from beating a ranked team on the road. We'll see how good Pitt is, but that's still a significant achievement.
Yeah, when I look at Pitt's schedule, Dave, it's not insurmountable. I mean, Pittsburgh could win 8 games very easily. I don't see it as a top 25 team, but its front seven on defense is really solid. And they got 3 or 4 guys in there that could play in the NFL. And so I think Tennessee, it's understandable that Tennessee's line would get, offensive line in particular, would get some confidence from that. And Pittsburgh has a veteran offensive line. Everybody's back from last season. I think it had an injury against Tennessee, but that also should give the defensive front some confidence. So that, from that perspective, you're right, it was a pretty good win for Tennessee, and coupled that with it was on the road.
Okay, let's play the what-if game. If the Florida game does play out the way it's played out before, where Tennessee goes into it and Tennessee fans are extremely confident and they don't win, what do you think of this team's ability to overcome a loss like that? And it's there's going to be one of these losses at some point. I think you and I talked, there are 4 swing games. They're probably going to lose one of those that they're going to come away saying we should have won. And I'm excluding Alabama and Georgia from that conversation. But I really like this team's moxie and confidence. And I don't know if that gets dented with a potential loss, but just the mindset of this team has stood out to me. Josh Heupel was joking with reporters on Monday, whereas Andre Dickerson used to talk about how tight the coaches got Florida week. And I just really think that this mindset, even though this is a huge game, at the end of the day, I think Tennessee could have a great season if they were to lose. Not that that's going to happen, but your thoughts on just their overall approach and mindset.
Yeah, I think that's players usually reflect their coaches, and I think that's indicative of Josh Heupel. He handles adversity very well. He's really even keel. He doesn't get overly hyped up when things are going well, and he doesn't get downcast when things aren't going well. I think Tennessee plays loose.
Tennessee does play loose. That was John Adams of the Knoxville News Sentinel. And I was eating an egg. I apologize. So
I see that.
so they do play loose. They do play with confidence. And that's something that Tennessee hasn't done under previous coaches going way back to the 90s. And I thought there was a lot, if you even want to go back to the 80s, I thought that if you look at Johnny Major's most memorable team in 85, the Sugar Balls that made it to the Sugar Bowl, nothing was expected of them, so they played loose. There's something about that. To be loose in the preparation heading up to the game and not be tight. There's no reason to be tight. You are the better team. You are at home. And I don't think we've talked nearly enough about Tennessee being the home team and the fact that you have a quarterback in Anthony Richardson that might have confidence issues. And Tennessee already was one of the toughest places to play. With the changes they made, even more so. I don't think we've talked enough about how big the home field advantage is.
I mean, it's a big advantage. People don't realize it, and maybe they actually do realize it. How big of an advantage it is, especially. I think now Tennessee holds 102,000. It was 108 at once. It's over 100,000 people. It doesn't matter. This game's been sold out for a hot minute, and so the home field advantage here is being so loud, especially with the opposing quarterback lacking in confidence, possibly being injured, having, as we've already seen, having a lot of problems with decision making and throwing into coverage and what have you. The home field advantage is going to be massive especially for this game, given what Anthony Richardson is. If you can shake him, and he's already shaken. We've seen that. We saw it against South Florida. He's already shaken. If you can shake him even more by how loud you are, give him an atmosphere that he does not want to play in, I think you're golden. I mean, that is a huge deal. And fans play a big part in these games. That's why we see that, Vegas even sees it. The home field advantage, you automatically get 3 points just for being the home team. So it's a big deal.
No, and I think Tennessee's home field advantage really might be worth more than 4.5 points, because I mean it's just electric there, and it's always been, like I said, one of the best stadiums. I thought that for a while maybe they took that for granted a little bit, but with the refurbishing, the renovations, and what they've done, it is an event. It is a venue. It is a venue now. So that is much, much different. What's different is the mattress place. The mattress place on Chapman Highway, man, over 225 5-star reviews. What can I tell you about the mattress place that just isn't awesome? No gimmicks, just 30 to 70% off each and every day. That is the mattress place. It's closer to downtown than you think. Tell them that Off the Hook Sports sent you, that Dave Hooker sent you, and I would greatly appreciate that. But you're going to save a lot of money on a quality mattress. I made the mistake of ordering a mattress before I knew the mattress place, and I paid way too much, and it's already borderline uncomfortable. So get quality at the best price possible at the mattress place. All right, Chris Landry coming up next. We'll get a preview of the Vols, the SEC, and more. Back in 2 minutes. Tell us about Big Orange Phillies, Mr. Viles.
Gary Viles here. I want to personally invite you to North Knoxville's newest sports bar and restaurant.
It's Big Orange Phillies, located in Black Oak Center. And yes, folks, it's happening in Halls. Big Orange Phillies offers family-friendly environment with homemade meals and the best deli-style subs around. Billiards, darts, jukebox, shuffleboard, and cornhole, and a full bar. We also offer valet parking on weekends and during special events. We even have a covered back patio. It's happening at Big Orange Phillies. We want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard Heating and Air Conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
This is Al's Dish Barbecue Supply, so come on in and see all the different rubs and sauces we have, plus a complete line of Green Mountain grills. Don't be overwhelmed. We have plenty of help so you can produce the best barbecue and amaze your family and friends. Barbecue is America's food. We'll do what we can to bring you all the best products. We're Al's Nest Barbecue, where Chattanooga goes to grill.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassey Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassey, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassey's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassey Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
We do our research. Have you done your research?
We're working like heck.
Today's tough question. What's the real debate?
You sipping my Soupe Guadalupe?
Exclusively on Off the Hook Sports with Dave Hooker and Amanda LaFratta.
You drinking my sake kimosabi?
Oh my God.
Today's tough question. We'll ask Chris Landry this question here momentarily. It's kind of a loaded one in a lot of ways. But how about today's tough question? Who is the most important player in Saturday's game? The most important player in Saturday's game. So there are a couple of different directions to go here. And one would be the quarterbacks. I mean, we could obviously say Hendon Hooker or Anthony Richardson. We could also go Brew McCoy. We could also, because Cedric Tillman may not play, you could say Ventrell Miller, the middle linebacker. As a matter of fact, I think that's a pretty good quattro. Now, when I say most important, I to some extent know what I'm getting out of Hendon Hooker. I think he's going to play well. I think he's not going to make mistakes. I think he's going to miss a couple of balls that he probably would like to have back. But at the end of the day, I think he'll have a high completion percentage, a lot of yards, and barring something unforeseen, a very successful day. So I'm leaning towards out of that group I mentioned, and we could replace Hooker since he's a more known commodity if you want to, Amanda. I don't know if there would be another candidate, but when we look at more unknown commodities, I think Brew McCoy is a bit unknown. And I think that you've got, like I said, Ventrell Miller may not play. Anthony Richardson has confidence and injury issues, which is never good. So out of that crew, would you add anybody to that? Because let's leave Hooker out of that. He's kind of a – do you want to put Jalen Hyatt in there?
Okay. So can we tweak it a bit?
We can tweak it a lot.
Okay, so not the most important player. I think we should tweak it to who will make the biggest impact on Saturday's game. Because if we put Ventrell Miller in there and Anthony Richardson, that could go either way on the impact. Because if Ventrell Miller doesn't play, then he will make, a huge impact. If Anthony Richardson's, hurt, banged up, that will make a big impact on the game as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a positive impact. It could be a negative impact for either team.
Okay, so who's our Quattro? Who we got out there?
So let's do Ventrell Miller. And let's do, what about Jabari Small?
I think I don't think he has as big of a potential impact as the other guys, because I think he's either going to be healthy and you know what you're going to get, or you're going to go with Hyatt and Sampson and be okay. So I would lean towards the three guys that we had in Miller, Richardson, and then Hyatt and McCoy. I would actually like the four of those. If you're good with that, who will have the biggest impact? So I will ask Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. His appearance brought to you in part by Owl's Nest Barbecue. Owl's Nest Barbecue, the home of everything you need to barbecue. They've got the rubs. They've got the sauces. They've got everything. They're at Owl's Nest Barbecue, including those big, awesome Green Mountain grills. They are fantastic. Chris Landry of Landry Football joins us now. So, Chris, how are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm well. I'll ask you today's tough question, and that is, who has the biggest impact on the game on Saturday? So we are excluding Cedric Tillman because we don't know that he'll play, but I've been told to lean towards the pessimistic side of that we'll see. But you know how injuries don't get out much, and if you have any insight, feel free to jump in there. I know you talk to coaches all around. But we went with Brew McCoy, Jalen Hyatt, and we went with Anthony Richardson, Ventrell Miller. So who has the biggest impact on the Tennessee-Florida game on Saturday?
I have no idea. It has to be Anthony Richardson, though. I mean, I don't know if Ventrell's going to be healthy enough to play or play well enough. I think for Florida to have success, they're going to have to run the football. I think Anthony Richardson's going to have to be impactful in the run game, and I think that he is going to have to be effective throwing the football once he can force Tennessee move the safeties out of the middle of the field. I think that he's going to have to be the most impactful player in the game for Florida to have the type of to have a real chance. I mean, I can make a case for Florida, but I can't make a case for one if Anthony Richardson doesn't have a great game.
Fair. If you want to get on board, if you got a question for Chris about your favorite team, be it the Vols or NFL tonight, and gets rolling, Chris covers all of that. So go ahead and post your questions on the message board. We want to get you engaged and get you some answers from a guy who's been an NFL coach and a college football scout. Chris, I spoke to somebody at Florida yesterday that said that he thinks that Anthony Richardson lacks confidence, that it's not just a bit of a banged up thing. Do you see signs of that when you watch tape of him this year?
Well, he is banged up. That's a big part of it. And he does lack confidence as a passer. To me, that's obvious. That's been the case for some time. I think he's confident in his ability to learn and grow, but and he's working hard. He's a really good young man, but yeah, he's not a polished passer and far from it. So I don't think they've done a great job in the receiving core of helping him out there. So yeah, I think that's the case with a lot of guys. I think that's the case with him. But it's not just, well, why do you lack confidence? It's never, well, that's it. You doesn't have confidence. Well, we're going to go buy some confidence and then we'll fix this. It doesn't work that way. I mean, he's not confident. So how do you get him? Well, he's not comfortable with what he's seeing. He's not comfortable in the pocket. He's seeing, if they're not able to run the football at Florida, as I mentioned, he's having to throw it into tight windows. And that's very difficult to do. It's an offense that's quite a bit different, let's say, than Tennessee's in their design. Florida's more physical. I mean, in terms of how they want to run the football. They want to establish the line of scrimmage. They don't spread you out. They They'll run some tempo at times, but that's not their DNA. They're trying to build a program that's sustainable because it's a line of scrimmage league. And so right now, what they're trying to do is, without a lot of weapons that they need to improve upon, and likely will in recruiting, they don't have a lot of weapons, and they don't have a really passing attack that really flows enough to get him the confidence early. And I think if you look at it against a good defense like against Kentucky's, he struggled. They're not making mistakes and penalties and whatnot, but they had a couple of negative plays because Kentucky really did a good job of narrowing the throwing lanes, and I think that you lack confidence when you're not quite sure what you're seeing. So that's absolutely the case with him. One of the cases with him.
So I know that this is Billy Napier's first year, and as a first-year head coach going into Neyland Stadium, that's going to be a tough game for Florida. I know we've been looking at it mainly from the Tennessee perspective, but let's flip the switch. From the Florida perspective, how worried do you think Billy Napier is? Because you're expecting a loss. I'm assuming if you're Billy Napier, you're expecting a loss. You've seen your team. It's not great. You're kind of imploding. It's just bad all the way around. How is playing in Neyland as that first-year head coach with this team, how is that going to affect Billy Napier and affect his team's performance overall?
Well, I think it's always difficult when you don't have the better team. I mean, I always feel a lot better when I go on the road and I got the better team. I'll take my chances there. I think it's a work in progress. I think the things that I mentioned about where they're deficient, he's aware of it. I do think whether he believes it or not, and you gave him the truth serum, I think he is exuding confidence, and he is expressing to his team that we will go in and beat Tennessee, and this is how we're going to do it. I think that's what you have to do. But I think there is a path for Florida to beat Tennessee. I just think it's a narrower path, and it has maybe more obstacles in it. But yeah, I think I don't want to use it this way because he doesn't, but he gets a bit of a pass in that it is going on the road. He is inheriting a team. Now, I will say this: there's no on the who has the most impatient fans in the SEC. Florida would maybe win that race. I mean, there's an expectation level that's almost out of control over there. But I think for the most part, the prudent fan realizes that the way Billy wants to do it is build it with a strong foundation, and he's been left with a roster that's not as good as a typical Florida roster. So I think you can flip it the other way. You got nothing to lose. You go and play a better team on the road. If Florida wins, there's maybe that expectation that Tennessee should win it. They're an 11-point favorite. I think there's more pressure on Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee drops this game. This is a missed opportunity because this is one of the few times in recent history and maybe in the future where you're going to go in as the better team. And I think most of the time when we go back in the history, and I know ball fans are always thinking, well, she was going to drop. We're playing Florida. But most of the time, Florida's been the better team. We went back and discussed it on Monday, the fact that Florida had the better team in most of those cases. And in recent years, Tennessee's just been bad, and most people have been better because of how they played. I think this is one of those times where Tennessee can go in. They stay home, and they have Florida come in, and they're the better team. So I think from Florida's standpoint, they'll come in with the idea of we need to win this game at the line of scrimmage. Tennessee's made mistakes against – they've had way too many penalties. I think 24.
Yeah.
The special teams have been bad.
Right.
Look at the Pitt game. Now, that was on the road for Tennessee. But, Florida is better than Pitt. They got more talent. Pitt, abandoned the running game probably a little too early. Pitt had a chance to win it. So why can't we go in and win it? I think that's going to be Florida's approach. But, Tennessee plays a clean game. This game to me is about Tennessee. If they play a clean game, I think if they do, they can win it. And if they get off to a good start and force Florida out of the run game early, their run game early, I think Tennessee can win it going away. But I think if Tennessee plays a sloppy game and they're ineffective, punching it in the red zone and missed opportunities, Florida, as I said on Monday, they want to make this a half-court game, a physical line of scrimmage game. And if they can, Florida's got a chance to win this. But Tennessee, is in a position to not let it get that way. But I think of the two, if the one thing I would tell you where Florida's been better, Florida doesn't make as many mistakes and, many penalties, and Tennessee does. So that's an area where Tennessee can't beat themselves. And if they make mistakes, you're going to get yourself in trouble. It happens all the time. And so it's about Tennessee and what they can or can't do or will or won't do.
I want to get to Daniel's question. He had a question about the running backs. But first, real quickly, Chris, as far as that home field advantage, being loud, being disruptive, do we overplay that sometimes with the technology being able to communicate and all that stuff? Or are there some stadiums that as a coach, you're just like, man, I do not want to play there?
Yeah, look, it's an advantage. There's no way of getting around it. It's an advantage. You've got to make it work to your advantage. But I think crowd noise can affect the opposing offense. It can affect your ability to check. It could rattle you a little bit, because you're not quite, you're not with a complete awareness of what the call is, and that's not good. So if you can disrupt that, you can absolutely have an effect. But I'll say it again, it's much more effective if you got a better team. And I think you can mitigate some of that. I think you prepare for going into a loud atmosphere where you can't communicate as well. Well, you got the hand signals, you can adjust to that, and you'll do that. And so I think that I think it's probably overplayed, but it's still important if that makes any sense. And I think people, I know that it's usually about a 3-point difference in the point spread.
Yeah.
And so that tells you a little bit of how some people view it. But I'm going to say this because I grew up in the shadows of Tiger Stadium and going to games there, and I coached at LSU. Oh, Tiger Stadium is just, it's a death knell. Well, I can tell you this. When Curly Hallman was coaching there, it wasn't tough to come in. Vanderbilt came in and won. You know what I mean? Miami of Ohio won. I mean, Southern Miss won. I mean, it wasn't that difficult. And people could slap you around and do anything you wanted. And so the Tiger Stadium crowd, and some crowds, I think this, if you get on your team and you're a passionate fan base, sometimes the crowd can turn against you. That's definitely the case in Baton Rouge. But if you're really good, it makes a huge difference. There's no question about it. Alabama, until Nick Saban beat Alabama in the early 2000s, Alabama won every game in Tiger Stadium from 1969 to 2004. That's every other year.
Yeah.
And they want, now, was it tough environments? Did Charlie Mack have some good teams? Did Jerry Stovall have a couple Jerry Stovall beat Bear Bryant's team in Birmingham, but he couldn't beat them in Baton Rouge. So, I think it can be overplayed because it has to be accompanied by a really good team. But I do think home field is important. And some stadiums are tougher. And I think the getting away from your environment for the team that's going the road, I think it does have an effect.
Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, like, and share. We appreciate that. And if you have any questions about Tennessee's game against Florida, or you want to go off script a little bit and you have a question about an SEC game this weekend, or an NFL game, this is the time to get it in with Chris Landry of LandryFootball.com. You'll know more about football if you join LandryFootball.com. I can promise you that. Daniel's saying some of our running backs seem to constantly run into our linemen's back and ride them for a couple of yards when there seems to be a wide open hole. Are you noticing any of that when you look at the tape?
Not a lot of it. I mean, I've seen some of it, and that's obviously assignment flawed there. Now this offense is about the reason why that's happened, and it has happened a few times. Not an extraordinary amount, but one is too much. It's going to happen a little bit more in this scheme though than others, because remember that this blocking scheme is the back has to cut off the flow of the offensive line. So if the back reads it wrong, or if the back sees the offensive line taking it one direction and he cuts a little too quickly, then he's up in the back of the offensive lineman. Whereas a gap scheme is you're running to a certain hole and the line has got to make that gap for you. Whereas in this scheme, the back has to cut off the flow of the offensive line, which is affected by the flow of the defense. So if the defense charges one way left to right, you tend to bring them that way, and it's up to the back to recognize it quicker and make the cut into the open hole. So you're basically it's a fast flow, and so the reason why you may see that a little bit more is because of the style. It's not good, it's no excuse, but that's the reason. It's the back not being able to make the read quick enough and adjust to it, cut it quick back up into the open hole quick enough.
Another question coming from John. If you have a question, go ahead and get on board. Like, subscribe, and share. Would Tennessee, I'm paraphrasing, but would Tennessee use a spy on Richardson? Would that be Banks or Beasley if they did?
I think they'll use some of it. I think the biggest thing you need to do in spy systems will work, and I think they'll throw some of it at them. What you've really got to do with a quarterback like Richardson, in particular Richardson, is you've got to work your pass rush, what we call a mush rush. You've got to work it from the outside. You don't allow the escape routes. Now, that's also important that you got to feel hard, because he will take off and run up the middle too. But you want him to step up in the pocket by pushing the pocket outward and collapsing him inside, so he has to step up and know where to run. Because then that's where you can make mistakes. That's where you can throw it. I'm not a big believer overall. I think in using the spy, it's good to throw them off. But if I'm going to take anybody that Tennessee is going to spy Anthony Richardson on, I'm taking Anthony Richardson. He's probably going to beat that guy athletically. So I want to play good team defense while I'm basically collapsing, mush rushing from the outside. I'm not worried about collapsing in on him. I want to make sure that I set the edge where you can't get outside, and then I want to make sure that I don't give any escape lanes inside. If you do those two things, you're going to frustrate him and force him to throw it in those situations, and you want him throwing it in those situations, not running.
2 times on 4th down last week, Tennessee ran that speed option play to Dylan Sampson. John asked, how much do you think that Tennessee will run the option play on Saturday?
I don't know how much, but I know this. Florida's got to prepare for it. That's a really good job about showing that. People say that all the time about, well, why do you show that in it? You want to show a lot in a lot of games, and particularly in games where you can show a lot of things, put a lot of stuff on tape, make the opposition have to prepare and worry about a lot of things. You don't have to run it. In fact, you can do it in different down and distance situations. But I don't know how much. I mean, I can't answer how much they'll do it. I think it'll be a part of it. I will say where I like it is I like it a little bit more in red zone, deep red zone area, because I think that in the deep red zone area, what this offense likes to do with the passing game, it's easier to defend this Tennessee passing game in the red zone. Obviously, the field's shorter. It's compressed. So to me, the speed option is particularly good in that situation. And that's where we could see it more. So the answer to the question is, if you're a Tennessee fan, you hope you see it maybe a lot, because maybe they'll be in the red zone a lot.
I had a little birdie tell me, watch out for Jacob Warren this week. And I'm not saying that because he's a part of Off the Hook Sports. I swear.
That's just intuitive for you. You've got the right guys on your network.
Yeah, when they said it, I was like, heck yes, let's do this. But I swear, somebody that would know said, watch out for him, especially if Cedric Tillman, which I'm getting kind of the feeling from people, not anything specifically, but that Cedric Tillman may not play on Saturday. Now, I'm not saying that Jacob Warren is going to start playing receiver. I'm not saying anything like that, but I found it interesting this person brought that up to me. So would they do different things schematically on offense without a Tillman, or do you just plug another dude in on the roster because they've got a deep receiving core?
Well, certainly they're not formationally. No, they're gonna do the same thing,
right?
But whether they work the middle of the field more, that's gonna. I mean, you can go in and say, yeah, we'll work the middle of the field more, and that is absolutely a chance for Jacob to have a big impact. But your play call and your play design is reflective of what the defense is doing too. You've heard the term. Well, take what the defense gives to you. I mean, if they don't do a good job with their zone drops, Jacob Warren could have a field day. I mean, I'd certainly work them over the middle of the field. I've been a proponent. I believe that's a bigger part of their offense that they need to exploit. But if people are going to get deeper in their zone drops, well, then that's not there. And so oftentimes people say, well, I can't believe, why are they not doing this? Because it's covered. That's why. So it's not going to change their look. They're going to play a 3 wide receiver look. It's going to be a different one than Cedric if he doesn't play. And I think he'll probably give it a go personally, but he may not. I mean, that's going to be up to him and all that. But it's not going to, well, all right, we're going to change the formation. It's not what they do. They're going to still go temple. They're going to stay with 3 receivers. But what it could do is could give out more opportunities for other guys. The other thing it might interestingly do, though, is it might give, if they don't overplay Cedric's replacement, Keaton Holiday, regardless of what they do, if Tillman doesn't play, if you don't roll the safety over to that receiver like you do to Tillman, then you might get some one-on-one matchups. So Cedric's replacement might have a big day too, because Cedric, his replacement, may not see as much rolled coverage with the safety as Cedric does. So I think we need to watch that. But the answer to these questions is not in a vacuum of here's what Tennessee's going to do. They're going to do, it can do a number of things, and it's all reflective of what Florida does defensively. And that's what's important about being able to get good pre-snap reads and good post-snap recognition about where their rotation is going, and that's going to get you to the open guy. So the open guy is going to be the best opportunity, and who that's going to be is going to be reflective of a number of things that we really don't know yet. I can speculate, but that's kind of how I see it.
Hey, Chris, let's run through some of these questions quickly if we can, because I know Amanda has questions as well, and I don't want to take up too much of your time. But this is something Daniel has brought up that I've noticed before, maybe a little bit more last year, as pointed out on our message board. But it seems as if, well, you've said before, this is pretty much a one-sided offense in the passing game. Hendon Hooker knows if he's going to throw to the right or left, right? So he's going to make that simple read and make that throw. And it seems like on the other side, the guys that know they're not getting the ball can kind of be a little bit lazy at times. I've noticed that too. As a coach, does that bother you, or you like, save your energy? We run a lot of plays.
No, absolutely it bothers me. You first of all, you don't know what's going to happen, and so what if you go to the left side? What if the ball comes to the right? You're just not going to block. I mean, you've got to run it. So yeah, that's something that I think
Well, I was talking about specifically about pass routes and passing plays.
Well, but that's what I'm saying, though.
Okay.
The ball goes to the left. Who's to say that he doesn't come back to the right, after the catch? If you don't block, then, it's the whole thing, that's absolutely. It bothered me when Randy Moss didn't run hard, and he's a great player. So, yeah, no, there is some of that. I think a lot of it, though, is a little bit natural, but I think you got to really sell it on the other side, because I think here's the other thing it does too. If you don't sell it, then it's really easy for the defense. Just a split-second game, it's really easy for them to peel off and go to the other side. And again, if the corner forces it inside, the backside corner has a much better chance of making a play than if you doing a good job selling it off the line of scrimmage. That guy's turning and he's not in a position to make a play. So I think it is important.
Last one. I know Amanda wants to jump in there. John said, does Tennessee try to run more with Florida giving up so many yards against USF, or do they just try to keep it balanced? What's the approach?
You can run the football in South Florida. You can run the football in Florida. South Florida did do it. It really depends on how Florida plays it. Now, Florida did not put 8 guys in the box against South Florida. So, you're running it. I think it really depends on how Tennessee plays it. How Florida plays defensively. If they play 7 guys in the box, I think that Tennessee's going to run the foot. Tennessee runs it on numbers, guys. They don't go in and say, we're going to run it this many times and throw it this many times. So this offense is fast tempo. So how the defense lines up, how many guys are in the box, it's a numbers count. It's simple counting numbers. So how often they run it depends on Tennessee puts numbers in the box. Does Florida put numbers in the box? They'll run it. They'll throw it. If they don't, they'll run it. It's as simple as that. So that's going to determine that. Florida's going to determine how much Tennessee runs it or throws it.
Well, I know Amanda wants to jump in there. Remind you that this appearance brought to you in part by Pedigo in Chattanooga. Pedigo Chattanooga is a great place to go to purchase or rent your bike. Get around Chattanooga and know that you got a service department there. If you buy one online, e-commerce, good luck finding somebody to work on an e-bike. If you know anybody that's not named Pedigo, let me know, because I don't, Amanda.
And I'm staying as long as Amanda wants me to stay. So I'll answer any questions anybody has at Amanda or anybody else. Since I am too long-winded, I know I'm too long-winded. That's a flaw, I know.
You have a lot of insight, which I very much appreciate. I've been over here trying to jump in for a hot minute. I'm just making fun of Dave for saying Amanda's going to jump in. But anyway, so I have a question about, we've seen Florida and is a completely different team from Utah to Kentucky. Like, it seems like just a completely different team. Now, a lot of that is being said as Anthony Richardson has a lack of confidence. It's just not, he's not that great, blah, blah, blah. My question is, we had somebody on Monday bring this up. Is it just a lack of confidence with Anthony Richardson, or do you think he's injured? Do you think he's banged up? There's some play in Kentucky that he came up hobbling, and then after that play, was over, he wasn't the same as he was before. What your coach, you see the X's and O's, you've seen players. What do you think is going on there?
If he was a horse, Chris, would you have shot him?
Lord, no, we're not going there. But
no. He's banged up. That affects your confidence when you're banged up and you're hurt, because you don't know that you're comfortable in executing as well. That is a part of it. But I also think there's other issues there in that, first of all, Florida was able to run it fairly effectively against Utah. They're lucky they played Utah early. I didn't think Utah's well coached has said that going in. Utah didn't play a really good game, and they didn't defend Florida as well as they should have. They didn't set the edge in the run game. So Florida had some success, particularly in short yardage and goal line. So they had more success against Utah. But that game, you go back and look at it, that was Utah's game as much as Florida's. It wasn't like they controlled the game or anything. They played better, and it was a good win. But Utah could have easily won it. Florida deserved to win it. They did the things they needed to do. Now, Kentucky comes in off of that, off of that film, and is able to do things a little different and better than Utah. They set the edge in the run game. They got right in Anthony Richardson's face. They forced him in the pocket, which I just talked about. That is what you want to do against him. They did all those things. So, and then he did get hurt. So it's usually never one thing. It's a collaboration of all of those things. He's not playing with a lot of confidence. He's maybe not as comfortable running it as much. And, we don't know how hurt or banged up he is, but I know that there's some degree of it. I can't go on the 1 to 10 scale what it is. Our doctors ask you how the pain on this level. I don't know, but I think it's a factor. Now, can Tennessee replicate defensively to the degree of what Kentucky did? Because they're a different style of defense than Kentucky. So that's going to be fun to watch. But I think there's no doubt about it. And they say, well, good Anthony Richardson, bad Anthony Richardson. The reality is they were able to run it better against Utah. And the passing game had success against Utah because they were able to run it. And they had greater spacing and coverage to throw it. They didn't have that against Kentucky. Therefore, it was a problem.
Gotcha.
Interesting. So at the end of the day, Chris, how do you see this game playing out? I know you think Tennessee's a better team. Do you believe in any of the nightmares, the ghost of the past, or do you just call this game straight up from a coach's perspective?
Yeah, I don't really believe in the whole, ghosts and the past and what happened years ago, and we never do that. I mean, I think there are trends that are applicable when you have, and I've always thought, Amanda and Dave, that trends of the past of teams, well, when you had same coaching staffs, remember when coaches were there 15 years and you could see trends and you similar styles, and there's matchup that gives people problems or not. But in today's game, I just, what happened, in the Jeremy Pruitt area versus era doesn't, maybe it was era instead of era, that has nothing to do with now. It doesn't guarantee you anything. As I said, there's a path for Florida to win it. But to me, it's simple. I mean, it's usually the better team will play, if you play your game and you execute it well, I think you win. That's how I look at it. But sometimes I'm wrong. I mean, I thought Alabama should probably decisively beat Texas. I thought last year they should have beat A&M. They didn't. So it doesn't matter if you're better if you don't play better and you don't execute what makes you good. I do think that Tennessee needs to clean up their game on special teams, penalties. Those are things that when you're explosive on offense, you tend to let go because you can make up for it. But I don't think this offense is humming to the degree that they can overcome a boatload of penalties. I mean, a dozen penalties in a game will get you beat. It's going to cost you. You lose the turnover margin by a -2. All of a sudden, this is a close game. It's a line of scrimmage game, and you're in trouble. Do I forecast Tennessee doing it? No, but they have struggled in some of those areas, but not to that degree. I don't see it. I said, if anything, I think Tennessee will likely win it. And if they get to an early lead and force Florida out of their run game, I think Tennessee could win it decisively. So that's kind of the variables I see. But that's why we play it. That's why we love it, right? Because we just don't know, and we're not going to know until we do it. And I know the Vol Nation is not going to be comfortable until it's over and it's a win because they've had that. But I don't believe in the whole ghost stuff. I just think better team plays better, you win. We'll see how it plays out.
I can't believe I haven't asked you this to this point, and I'm going to let you go on this. overall, you see this. I don't, but Florida's defensive depth, because of the way Tennessee likes to run tempo, if they have to make substitutions, how much of a drop off is there from team 1 to team 2?
There's a bit of a drop off. They've got some playmakers, but they're not what I would typically call Florida defense. Now, they had a couple of guys. Cox stepped up big against South Florida and made plays late. So they can get stops. They've got talent. They're not quite as good as they have been when they've had some of the really good defensive teams. They're pretty good. I think, though, the key, though, I'm going to go back to it, is Florida's ability to run the football. If they can run it, then their defensive snaps won't be as high. If their defensive snaps are on the field, they won't be as good. It's just like A&M's defense didn't look very good against Appalachian State for the past 15, 20 plays, did they? It's because they ran 80 snaps. That's why. No one's going to be able to do that. And Florida won't be able to do it if they're on the field for that many snaps. So if they can run the football, then it could be a different game, and they won't be on the field as much. So I think the ability of Tennessee to stop the run with their front seven is the key to this game. If they do that well, they win it. They win going away. If they got to put 8 guys in the box, then Florida might have some success throwing the football. Then you've got some different issues. So we'll see that. That's the key, though, to how the game will go out.
Great stuff. We appreciate everybody on the message board for taking part. Make sure your notifications are on so you know when Chris is around, because you learn so much from him. Go to LandryFootball.com. Hit the subscribe and like button. Chris joins us every Monday and Thursday, so he'll have a complete breakdown of the Vols on Monday, and he'll grade out Tennessee's monstrous win. At least that's what I know that most of you are hoping for out there. Chris, if I don't talk to, I will talk to you shortly, but like in an hour.
You got more work to do. Yeah.
I was going to say have a blessed weekend. Have a blessed hour.
Yeah. Well, thanks. I can do that too. Hey, thanks a bunch. Take care, Amanda. And thanks for everybody joining in,
Chris.
and enjoy doing that. Take care.
Thank
Good
you.
stuff. Back in 2 minutes off the Oak Sports.
It's Gary Viles here, Viles Automotive on Callahan Drive. I've been selling cars here in East Tennessee for 27 years. In that time, I've come to realize it's not about the car. It's about you, the customer. So I'm here to take care of you just like family. Good credit, bad credit, you name it, we can get you taken care of. If we don't have it, we can find it for you. We go across the country to get any vehicle that you want. And here at Viles Automotive, we don't believe in fake numbers. We just give you great deals. And as always, we want, we need, and we appreciate your business.
Do you want to own the more that owns every job? Then get to Vassy Lawn and Garden in Cleveland and get you a Toro. I'm David Vassy, here to talk to you about Toro. With a Toro Zero Turn, you'll get more out of every minute and you'll reach the finish line faster. At Vassy's, we like to say, no matter if you're mowing 3 acres a week or 11 lawns a day, homeowners and business owners alike find confidence in equipment they can trust from top to bottom.
Vassy Lawn and Garden, Highway 60 North in Cleveland.
Man alive, it's worth the drive.
This is Steve Rain. I own the Midnight Oil and Michelin Tire Direct service station here in Ooltewah. It's not a fancy place, never has been, but it's a clean place with clean restrooms and good folks who work here. We sell gas and fix cars, nothing glamorous, but we love what we do, and we're going to keep doing it for a long time to come. There's not many real service stations left, and that's a shame. We're the guys just like the guys back in your hometown. We'll fix your tire, change your oil, and put a new set of Michelins on your car. If you want a Twinkie, you'll just have to keep on going. Thanks for the business.
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
Dare to compare.
All right, welcome back. She is Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. By the way, I ask you to subscribe, volunteer. D77 said we're all subscribed to Amanda.
you. That's very nice.
Your thoughts on Tennessee and Florida? As coming up, we will have this day in sports history, and also another thing we like to do is a little bit of message board bingo. And Big Orange Phillies is a great place to watch the game this weekend. You'll have a good time, and you'll know that it's a family-friendly environment. Great food. Big Orange Phillies in North Knoxville is absolutely unbelievable to hang out, and you can shoot some stick. They've got billiards, they've got darts, they've got karaoke. It's just make a day out of it, make a weekend out of it, and know that it's a fantastic time. So, Amanda LaFratta, it is time to give away some stuff. What do you think about that? We've been giving away some Hooker t-shirts, and we've been taking care of our loyal listeners, and we greatly appreciate it, guys. The show continues to grow, some record numbers on the site, and couldn't do any of this without you. So thank you. So please like, subscribe, and share. I still see the analytics, and 80% of the people listening have not subscribed yet. So we want you to subscribe. So Kenny's saying, I'm worried about Tennessee's rush defense. What are your thoughts on what needs to be done? Who we should be worried about? Tennessee's rush defense. Yes, I think there is a cause for concern in the middle of that defensive line. I think that they're soft isn't the right word, not as talented as they would like to be at the defensive tackle position. Not soft, but I just don't know that there's those swore daddies, the term you love. I don't know that those guys are out there. The big Mount Codys of the world. They're not there yet. I think Tennessee would like to have those guys, but they just don't have them now. And most teams don't have those guys. Alabama, Georgia. There are a couple of others we could talk about, but most teams do not have those guys. So it is time for Message Board Bingo, and Message Board Bingo brought to you today by City Heating and Air Conditioning. Over 50 years of integrity in North Knoxville. Your opportunity to win a Hooker shirt. We'll just mail them to you. It's that simple. We'll ship them to you, however they do it nowadays. When can we email shirts? Isn't there like those 3D printer things?
I think you have to have a 3D printer in order to do that. And I don't think many people do have that, though I wish I had one because I think they're really cool.
It reminds me of, is it Fifth Element, the Bruce Willis movie, where they
go with the white?
Where they put her back together from just like an arm was all that was left.
Is she the one with the white, like tiny little outfit? You know what I'm talking about?
Mila Jovovich. Yes, I know.
Okay, let's not do that.
Yes, I can even go in my creepy voice.
That's very awkward and very creepy. Quit.
Crazy Nugs, I did too email you back. Check your spam. Email me again, and we'll take care of you. I've emailed everybody back, so I made sure to do that. So email me again, but I will check my spam. But email me right now, Dave@offthehooksports.com, Dave@offthehooksports.com. All righty, let's do a little bit of message board bingo. First person that is able to give me the message board that this post appears on will win a Hooker t-shirt. And if I guess it first, then we got no winner. John, we're working on your shirt. How long does it take? We'll wear it around North Georgia. John, we're working on it. Actually, your shirt, I think, went out yesterday, as a matter of fact. All of the shirts that we've previously had went out Saturday. And if you won one this week, then we went out yesterday. Otherwise, our operations manager, which might be my wife, is going to get a thorough talking to.
She has a full-time job. And do you want to revisit today's tough question to see who's winning?
Yes. Where are we on today's tough question?
All right, so who will make the biggest impact on Saturday's game? We have Ventrell Miller, Anthony Richardson, Jalen Hyatt, Brew McCoy. Jalen Hyatt is winning at 58.3%. Brew McCoy coming in second at 25%. Anthony Richardson coming in third at 16.7%. And Ventrell Miller at 0% because no one believes he's going to play.
Good stuff. All right, let's get to it. A little message board bingo. Amanda will read Amanda will read a post. Can I tell you where that post comes from? Here we go.
All right. Schools don't make great players. Mindset and coaches do. I think our school has the better coaches at the moment, and Bama's time on top could be in jeopardy.
I know who this is. So you got 10 seconds if you want to win a shirt. Who said that? You can repeat it if you don't mind, Amanda, if you'll read that.
Okay. Hold on. Sorry. I went away from it. Let me repeat it really quickly.
Daniel went Georgia. It's Georgia, right?
No. Schools
Georgia?
Schools don't make great players. Mindset and coaches do. I think our team has the better coaches at the moment, and Bama's time on top could be in jeopardy.
I felt certain it was Georgia. So Daniel and I are both wrong. All right. Anybody else? A&M, Texas A&M is what Volunteer D77 says. No, who is it?
No, it is Texas.
Better coaches at the moment. If you just said better assistant coaches, coaching staff, I would have to give that a more thorough look. But it's hard for me to say anybody has better coaches as long as Nick Saban's still rocking and rolling. Let's do it again. Message board bingo. Here we go.
All right. This is hold on. Sorry. I keep losing things, so just don't even.
Well, your birthday was yesterday. You're getting older now.
I know. Thank you. Football only happens 15 at most weekends per year. That leaves 37 more Saturdays for travel. My wife and I have a rule. If we travel during football season, it's to our team's game. If you consider yourself a blank football fan, I challenge you to consider this rather than asking others to give recs on ways you cannot directly support our team. Rant over. This is ACC school.
ACC school. All right, so we've got a couple seconds here. I think I may know who it is. We're giving away a Hooker shirt. And I don't see a guess. I'm going to go Clemson.
You're right. It's Clemson.
Well, crazy. Okay, I'm giving crazy credit because as soon as I said Clemson, it showed up like the very moment that it came out of my mouth. He posted it. So I don't know. Crazy Nugs, if you already won a shirt, are we giving you another shirt? I don't mind, but
give him a craft treat.
Yeah. So
would you? Dog.
Yeah, Crazy. When you email me, tell me, would you prefer some craft treats? Would you prefer something from Owl's Nest Barbecue and a shirt? Do you want 2 shirts? Dave at offthehooksports.com. Dave at offthehooksports.
You have a wife and you want a shirt for your wife? Okay, here's the last one, and this is the best one. I saved the best for last.
I'll have to win. I don't know. I don't know what MBB says to get 1 shirt. I don't know what that means, Crazy Nugs. Your acronyms are scaring me. All right, here we go. Last one. This is your opportunity to win a Hooker shirt.
All right. Any chance I'd be able to make the trip to this city on Saturday morning and sit for the game after a Friday morning vasectomy? Asking for a friend.
I can't answer that because I saw that one.
Dang it.
Yeah, and I purposely don't look at them, but it was right in front of my Twitter feed, and I saw vasectomy, and I was like, well, I have to read this one. Crazy says, you call my wife a hooker. MBB is message board bingo. Okay. Brandon says that's Tennessee. Is it Tennessee?
That is correct, Brandon. That is Tennessee.
All right, Brandon, email me at dave@offthehooksports.com and we'll hook you up with a Hooker shirt. It's a lot of By the way, just total coincidence because I'm not related to them whatsoever, but we had somebody subscribe to our YouTube channel with the last name Hooker. So by the time we talk about Hooker and I'm Hooker and we got a Hooker subscriber, it's like Amanda's the pimp.
I'm the pimp.
Yeah. Yeah, you got a bunch of hookers hanging around you. You're running the show. That makes you the pimp.
I don't know if I really want to go down as the pimp of the Hooker show.
Bassey Lawn and Garden, man alive, it's worth the drive. Wow, wow, wow. Bassey Lawn and Garden is right there in Cleveland, industrial mowers. They also have, the commercial mowers, residential, really whatever you need. They're just that awesome. So check them out. That is Bassey Lawn and Garden. Again, man alive, it's worth the drive. Tomorrow on the program, be sure and hit that like and subscribe, and please turn your notifications on. That is so key, because tomorrow we are loaded up. We're going to have Josh Ward of the Sports Animal. We're going to have Caleb Calhoun of Off the Hook Sports with his breakdown. And we're also going to have Coach Lance. We've had a little bit of trouble connecting with him, but he's so funny, and we can't wait to get him on, and we will do that. And somebody saying they worked at Camp Maryland, Dahlonega for a few years while I was in the Army. I don't know exactly why you're telling me that, but I will say thank you for your service, sir. How about that? So this I always, when somebody says they serve, I always say that, because you could argue about the politics of whatever war you're in. But ultimately, the feet on the ground, those dudes they're not making the political decisions about what to do. And I got nothing but respect, because I will tell you one thing. I am not tough enough to do that job, not even close.
Nope.
A couple of significant birthdays out of baseball. Yogi Berra with all his fantastic sayings, and then Tommy Lasorda as well were born on this day. And Yogi Berra would just be an absolute joy to cover, like a clever Derek Dooley, which is different, because Derek Dooley just said dumb stuff that he tried to make clever that was funny. But it ain't over till it's over would be Yogi Berra's most memorable saying. Baseball is 90% mental, the other half is physical. Huh?
That's a conundrum.
Yes. You can observe a lot by watching. If the world were perfect, it wouldn't be. Huh?
I don't know. I have one though for
Lay it on me.
today in sports history.
Lay it on me.
I'm laying it on you. So that doesn't sound right when I'm the hooker pimp. So today,
sounds like you're about to lay a smack down, a backhand on me.
I could do that. Okay. So today in sports history was in 2007, September 22nd, 2007, in the middle of overtime between Georgia and Alabama, ESPN announcer Mike Patrick randomly asked what Britney Spears is doing with her life. I will never forget that moment.
I wasn't watching that game. What game was that again?
It was in overtime, September 22nd, 2007, Alabama and Georgia in overtime. They're like kicking field goals just to win the game. And this announcer asked what Britney Spears is doing with her life. I will never forget that. I was sitting there just like, what?
Craft Treats is your home to make your pet happy, and they will be able to do that. Craft Treats is unbelievable. Craft Treats, man, when it comes to maybe social anxiety that your dog will have, if it's car ride anxiety, whatever the case might be, Craft Treats will take care of you, and Craft Treats will take care of your pet. Also, arthritis, which my dog is dealing with, it's just phenomenal what they're able to do. CBD infused. It is it's a game changer when it comes to your pet and its behavior and its stress level and its pain level as well. So nobody wants their dog or pet to be hurting. So again, I'll remind you, a huge show. So set those notifications on. And tomorrow we'll be joined by Josh Ward of the Sports Animal. Also, our own Caleb Calhoun will visit with us, as it'll be Josh Heupel visiting with the media for the last time this afternoon. What does that mean? That means we'll have full coverage on offthehooksports.com. So have a fantastic day, everyone. She's Amanda LaFratta. I'm Dave Hooker. This is a presentation